I'm back, baby. For a one-off fee, Tom and Rob have paid me to say the following. We know that episode 86 didn't quite sound right. We also know that Tom said episode 87 would sound back to normal. We didn't lie. Rob gave Tom incredibly hot audio. No, nothing like that. And Tom recorded in an echoey holiday home kitchen. They promise that audio will go back to normal in episode 88.
Welcome back to the Variety Show with me, Tom, and him, Rob. He's not actually here though, is he? I'm talking in a kitchen to myself, trying to be quiet, not to wake people upstairs. I'm on holiday in Hunstanton over in the Norfolk area, and we did have a chance to record a normal episode, and I thought, no, because we not get a chance to then record the Untitled Sci-Fi show in time, it didn't seem fair. So, this week you are getting 5 questions that I've asked Rob to answer, that I'm going to answer. And then for the Untitled Sci-Fi show, I think we're doing the same thing. He's going to give me 5 questions and I'm going to answer them, and you'll hear both our answers. Consider it a getting to know you sort of episode. And yeah, if you want the others, you need to go and listen to the Untitled Sci-Fi show. Nice and simple. So, that's about it. Rob has already sent me his answers, and he knows I'm grumpy with him because I've already heard that they might well be peaking. They are not going to be the level that we normally do. And very possibly this isn't either. I've not listened to his answers. I'm going to leave that as a surprise for when it gets to the episode itself, when I listen back. Obviously, I'll edit it, but I'll try and ignore as much as I can, just because I want to be surprised as well by what he's answered. So, let's get on with question number 1. Question 1 then. What food or food product would you ban if you had the chance to? Rob, you can go first.
What food or food product would you ban if you had the chance? This is the easiest question in the world anyone could ever ask me. It's coriander, which is the real name for it. Don't you lot come at me with your other fucking weird words you have for coriander. What is it? The America? Who knows? I don't even remember. They call it something else, don't they? Everyone's going to be shouting at me. What's this? I don't care. Coriander. So I've got that thing where it tastes funny. It's like a gene, or there's something in you where they say coriander tastes like dish soap. I don't think it tastes like dish soap, but for me it tastes cilantro. That's what the Americans call it. Kind of metallic. A bit like metal, and I can pretty much taste it in almost anything, which is a shame because I love Indian food and they love coriander. So I've kind of learned to try and blank it out and ignore it. Like if there's only a little bit in it, it's not so bad. A lot of the time they do it fresh and just put it on top, or if I can just pick that off. But if you buy something ready-made in the store, a lot of the times I can tell it's there. I won't say anything because, some people love it. My wife adores it. She'll have scrambled eggs and then chop loads of coriander up and chuck it in under some. No, ruined to the point where if she's used on the chopping board, I would go and clean the chopping board. I can't use the chopping board after she's cut a load of coriander on it, putting all that gross coriander juice all over the chopping board. No, thank you. So that I wouldn't just ban it. I would wipe it off the face of the planet. Completely annihilate it. Or I'd invent a time machine, because I can do that. Invent a time machine, go back in time to where the plants, were changing, and find where coriander changed to become coriander and just stand on it. That first plant that was I don't know how plants change, whatever. the first one, stand on it, squish, done. Chuck it in the ocean. No, don't want to chuck it in the ocean because we might get coriander ocean and then we have coriander fish. Maybe a time machine isn't such a good idea.
There are so many foods I would ban, and honestly, this wasn't even a challenge to answer. So when I came up with this one, it was, I don't even know why I went with food, because often if I said like favourite food, it's just going to be steak straight away and that sort of thing, or chocolate, or Coca-Cola. I know that's not a food, it's a drink, but food adjacent product. So I thought, let's go the other way with what would you get rid of? And for me, from an early age, I've just loathed the stuff. It's absolutely disgusting. The smell is brown sauce. And I don't care what anyone says. The smell of brown sauce utterly turns my stomach. Now, early age, I remember coming down on in particular, a Sunday morning, as Mum would always do a cooked breakfast sort of thing on a Sunday, and we would come downstairs and I'd be watching TV from the early hours. Then Mum would come down and sometimes we got toasted bacon sandwiches. Brilliant, excellent day. Love a bacon sandwich, still do. Then there'd be other days where we'd have a cooked breakfast, so sausages, bacon, toast. Dad would have beans, which again turns my stomach, but they're not as bad. And Dad would then have eggs as well, maybe some fried bread. And then he would get out the old daddy sauce, the brown sauce, and he'd put a big dollop on his plate. And the smell, even now while I'm talking about it just acrid sits on my nose right now, even talking about it. And I hated it then, and it's made me feel really, really ill. And anytime Dad spotted that I didn't like something, he would then insist on offering to me every time because he'd think it was the funniest thing to do. So, oh, Tom, do you want brown sauce? And it'd be things like when we have a pork roast dinner is, oh, Tom, do you want applesauce? Knowing full well I absolutely loathed applesauce. I wouldn't go near it with a barge pole. And that would be his ongoing joke. If he knew there was something I didn't like while we were eating, he would have to offer it to me. And yeah, brown sauce, that never went away. And oh, the smell of it, just honestly, just even sat here talking about it now and thinking about it, the smell turns my stomach. It's just so grotesque. I understand people like it, and I understand it's labelled as fruity and whatever else, but no, it's just no. Nah. And this has never gone away, by the way. All my life, anytime I've smelled brown sauce, going to a cafe, when I used to work on the ambulances, going to a cafe table and sitting down, and there used to be one opposite the boxing we used to do, and looking at the table, and you just see like crusty blobs of either ketchup or brown sauce on the table. Just the worst thing imaginable. But fast forward to maybe 6 months ago, I am great when it comes to someone needs standing up for, someone needs someone to kind of go, right, can you lead this complaint, please? So you need a complaint written or someone dealing with it, I'll go and do it. But when it comes to me, I don't do it for myself, and I probably should. Every now and then, I quite like going down to our one of our news agencies in the village called Wayman's. And at the back of Wayman's, they've got a little food counter, and they've got every morning hot bacon, hot sausage, hash browns, some dodgily fried eggs, a vast array of different bread products that you can have these things put in. And I started to notice, I used to go down for a bacon roll, and someone else started doing it. And down went my bread roll. There was a blob of brown sauce left on the cutting board. It wasn't being, and it just really upsets me. There's no excuse. For me, if I was behind that counter, every time I did something, I'd be wiping down that board. But there was ketchup, there was brown sauce, there was butter, there was, oh no, it just, and I just remember just kind of just being absolutely quiet, thinking, she may have seen it, she might not do it, she might not, but no, in went my bat, splodged straight in that brown sauce. I got home, I opened up the bag, just hit by that smell. I just took the bacon out and threw the bread off. I just couldn't. I know I could have just cut that bit of bread off, but no, the entirety of it just absolutely turns my stomach. And even then, I could swear I could still taste it, even on the bacon and the smell. Anyway, if I'm getting rid of a product, it's brown sauce. Every day of the week, it is getting shot off to the moon. Send it to Mars. I'm sure the people that will go and colonize Mars will enjoy it. Go and send it there. We are not keeping it. Goodbye. Question number 2 then. What country would you like to really visit? That doesn't really make sense. The country you'd really like to visit. That's better. That makes more sense. Rob, you can go first again.
Well, I really wanted to go to the Maldives, and we did, for my honeymoon. There's 2 really, Japan and Egypt. Japan, everyone knows why you want to go to Japan. Japan to me feels like a different planet. Do you know what I mean? When you go away, yeah, okay, it's nice to go to a place where people might speak English. I mean, that seems very English, snobby thing to say. But it is helpful if you go somewhere and they speak English. But it's also nice to go somewhere and where they don't, because you do feel like it's different. You're going somewhere that's totally different, and that's what you should do. I think that's what you should be wanting to do. And Japan feels like that to me. I like all the kind of I'm going to be very specific. I like a pop culture part of it, specific anime kind of stuff. I love kind of quirky technology and stuff that they've got there, and I'm really interested to try all the different foods, because the food can be very different there, so that really interests me. And just not just cities, because I'm not somebody that really likes cities, so I wouldn't, if I go to Japan, I'd like to go to Tokyo, but then also I'd like to spread out and go outside of that. So we went to Canada a few years ago, as I've said on the show before, and I didn't like Toronto. We spent the whole time in the city, 3 or 4 days in the city there. Hated it. I liked going to the places when we were there, but I couldn't sleep in that bloody high-rise building. The noise of the traffic, no. I wouldn't go there again, to that particular part of Canada. Anyway, I'm talking about Japan. So I would struggle in that aspect of it. The same as maybe I'd like to go to New York. My cousin's living in New York. Maybe I'd like to go visit him one time. But I don't know if I'd like New York very much made the main city, because the noise and the bustling nature of the city. I work in London a lot, which I dislike. There's too much going on. I'm not saying I live in some, rural, surrounded by farming lands, but I did grow up in a not too noisy place. Grew up in St Albans, but I was right on the edge. TJ and I were right on the edge. We weren't right in the middle of a town. We had a lot of farmyards, a lot of country lanes and stuff, and it's where we grew up. It was a really nice place. And I kind of having that now. I want to go visit someone like a massive city, but I do want to go to Tokyo. And the other one is I really love to go to Egypt, which is quite a easy thing that I could actually do. You can go to Egypt and go into like the the hotels there and all inclusive and all these things. But it's not really seeing Egypt, is it? You just go into a hot place with a nice hotel. Don't feel like that really counts. My wife, she, as a young lady with her mother, went on a Nile cruise, and they stopped off at loads of different places. The places I'd like to go, like Thebes, all the Valley of the Kings, and there's Tutankhamun's thingies there, isn't it? Was it Temple of Isis is in Nubia. I can't remember how you say it. Abu Mina, I'd like to go to. I don't know exactly locations of those based on the Nile, but a Nile cruise sounds wicked. The wife also wants to do that, so we are thinking maybe that's something we could do when a little one gets a little older and might appreciate it, because she wants to go back. I'd love to go there. Yeah. The idea of that is really cool to me, and I'm not someone that likes boats, so saying that I want to go on an Nile cruise, it really must be good. I must really want to go to Egypt.
This was difficult, because there's so many countries. I've not actually travelled that much. I travel a lot for work, but it's to the same old countries: Netherlands, France, Spain. We were lucky. I got to do San Francisco last year, and we got to go to Alcatraz, and we got to go to a basketball game, which I never thought would be interesting, but really enjoyed it, really got into it. And we got to see all of that. We did some more touristy sort of things. That was pretty cool. So I kind of can tick that little bit off. But countries that I would really like to go to, there's quite a few. Obviously, there's things like New Zealand where I'd just like to go and walk. I'd love to go out to like the Norwegian fjords and see kind of the Northern Lights and navigate through them on one of the kind of cruises they do. That's quite high up, and I'd like to do Australia as well. It's a lot of my youth, remembering things like Neighbours. And I know it sounds silly going to a country just for something that you grew up watching, but Neighbours was the after-school treat every weekday for as long as I can remember. Primary school, junior school, secondary school. You come home, see BBC even, and then it would be Neighbours, and then obviously kicks out because Dad would have the TV. So yeah, Australia was high up on there, but I think, and unfortunately, it's just not going to happen in recent years in years due to come soon. However, I'm meant to write. I'm tired. Okay, is Japan. Now, if you follow the Retro Future, which is Elliot Cole, I think his surname is, he's done a couple of trips to Japan now where he's been sponsored, and he's trying to find the cheapest retro hardware, in particular Game Boys and the Minuet copy of Tetris. And he's gone to all these different areas of Japan, including the small, kind of smaller towns, the non-touristy ones, versus the giant ones. And obviously, a bit like the UK has with CEX or SEX, however you're meant to pronounce it, there's been this retro boom again, where our generation has finally got to the point where we're now making money. We might have a little bit of free money to spend, and the majority of us have got rid of the stuff we grew up with, stupidly. So we're now back in this position where, I'd quite like an N64, I'd like a PlayStation, I'd like a ZX Spectrum. So the prices have all gone through the roof over in the UK, and I don't know if you've tried buying anything retro recently, but it's so painful on the pricing. So over in Japan, the same thing is somewhat happening. In the big touristy areas, people have learned that if you go to Japan, you can go to these oddity shops and you can rummage through these giant bins of what they label as kind of rubbish or junk, and you can buy all this old computer game hardware for peanuts in comparison to what we would pay. Now, those prices have slowly been going up, and as I say, go and watch the videos. I'll try and link them in the description. You'll see that the further out you go to the non-touristy spots, the better the prices, and some of the things that you could find out there. But then there's just the whole look of Japan as well. I would love to just be out there for a couple of weeks with my camera. There are just design and environment and what's out. Mount Fuji, for example, is one of the most stunning views I think you could see across the world. And to see that, and to go there with my camera and capture that, let alone all the retro computing, let alone all the weird Japanese arcades and shops that exist, that's somewhere that I think I would really, really enjoy. And in comparison to kind of Australia and New Zealand, I genuinely feel it would be very different. Whereas Australia and New Zealand, it's more of the same, just a little bit different. I don't know if that makes sense. Similar with America as well. I enjoyed going out there, but actually what I found was San Francisco was really high prices because it was a tourist destination. There wasn't really anything massively different, and it was more of the same. So Japan, just, I don't know, something in the back of my mind says Japan is more likely to be more different than anywhere else. So question 3, which British comedy will you always watch no matter what? And I'm going to go first on this, Rob. There are so many British comedies to kind of pick from. And there's so many that I grew up with, really. Starting with things like Dad's Army, Some Mothers Do Have 'Em, Fawlty Towers, Mr. Bean, Blackadder. So many. The Young Ones, Bottom, The Likely Lads, Whatever Happened to the Likely Lads, Hancock's Half Hour. There were an absolute ton of them. And as I got older, there were more appeared. Things like Peep Show, The British Empire, Red Dwarf, Hyperdrive. If anyone hasn't seen Hyperdrive, by the way, brilliant BBC sci-fi sitcom with Nick Frost leading up with Miranda Hart. I can't think of who else is in it, and I'm not going to bother getting IMDb because I know I'm trying to limit myself to about 5 minutes per question. So yeah, there is a lot out. Oh, Only Fools and Horses. Crikey, how could I forget that one? There's so many to choose from, and there's so many of them that I would watch no matter over and over again. Thin Blue Line. There you go. There's another one. Only Fools and Horses. Now, I've rewatched that 2 or 3 times semi-recently, and I do enjoy it very much so. Oh, Steptoe and Son, by the way, just add another one in. But there are episodes of Only Fools and Horses that I've skipped over in recent years. Then I started kind of looking at other things, and things like Fawlty Towers. Let's start with that one. I loved that as a child, watching John Cleese be this horrendous hotel manager, causing all this sort of upset, made me laugh hysterically. Whether or not I really knew what was going on or not, or understood half the jokes in it, it kind of didn't matter. I found it hysterically funny. Now, having tried to rewatch it in recent years, I suffer the same way that I suffer with things like The Office. Now, I'm sure The Office is a masterpiece by Ricky Gervais, and I hear that from people all the time. I'm not the biggest fan of his work, and that's not because I don't think he's funny, it's not because I don't like the man, it's just because it's not the type of comedy that I typically like. And I found The Office, when I watched it, just too real in a way, and that cringiness just really kind of hit home and made me feel uncomfortable. However, then we come back to Fawlty Towers, and for very different reasons, that cringe feeling kind of hits back again. Not that it feels like it's, oh, this is too close to the bone, this is a little too real. More that I just feel embarrassed for the situation that's going on. And before anyone says it, no, it's nothing to do with cancel culture or things like being upset by the German episode, for example, or how he treats people. I just find myself getting embarrassed and find it really hard to watch now. It's just, I don't enjoy it like I did when I was 8 or 9 years old. Dad's Army, exactly the same reason. As a kid, I thought it was hysterical. I would watch those on a sick day, watch those over and over again. No TV on. There'd be the BBC school show, maybe a Channel 4 school show, then Going for Gold, and then what do you watch? So I used to watch our VHS recordings of Only Fools and Horses, Some Mothers Do Happen, but more often than not, it was the Dad's Army videos. And we recorded them off the TVs. They weren't the best quality, but I'd watch those over and over again. And as a kid, I just, again, always thought they were very funny. Watching it now, I really want to chin Corporal Jones. I cannot stand Clive Dunn's character anymore. It's just so painfully over the top. It's really a struggle, because otherwise the storylines and what Dad's Army was tremendous. But as soon as Jones comes on screen, I absolutely hate it now. Which is such a shame. And I just find it very hard to get past. Now, I was going to go with Red Dwarf for this, because I could watch Red Dwarf over and over again. But even then, the latter series, I haven't really watched anything Dave did, But the last couple of series where they lost Red Dwarf and they're just going around in Starbug, there were 1 or 2 fantastic episodes, but the rest I found very, very pitiful. And then finally the season where they found Red Dwarf and the nanobots remake everything and suddenly all the crew's back, I really didn't enjoy that. And the couple of episodes after that where they're in prison on the ship, it's all a bit pants. So I was going to put that very close second, but having rewatched this one recently, I got a lot of pleasure out of it. And I'm going to go a little bit off this way. I'm going to go with the British Empire. There was a charm about it. And yes, it had its cringy moments, but there was enough comedy put into there that actually I really, really enjoyed it. Now, I enjoyed it as a kid. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed the British Empire growing up. But watching it as an adult and coming across all the sorts of people that turned up in it, I just thought it was very, very funny. Now, obviously, I'm choosing that just because it's a little bit different. I would have absolutely gone with Mr. Bean, but let's face it, the vast majority of people our age or younger will always go with Mr. Bean as well. So I thought I'd choose something a bit different. But the British Empire just seemed to hit home a little bit. And even the latter seasons, I really enjoyed. And the constant drug craving of his wife, who really would like to leave Gordon, but always finds herself being drawn back in. There was just something about it that really tickled me recently. So yeah, I'm going to stick with that one, just to be a bit different.
Loads. Comedies on the telly in general, back when people used to flick channels, I would flick channels all the time, but if a comedy was on, boom. I spent my TV at home was spent a lot of time on Gold and a lot of time on Dave. So, I love Dave. Is that even still a channel anymore? Dave. And I would leave them on. Because I had, it's going to make me sound very posh. I had 2 tellies, not because we had loads of money. I would just keep my old ones. So if I had like a small one that I would get, and used to be my sister's or whatever, and then I'd have it, and then something would happen, whatever, and then she'd get a new one, or maybe I think I remember when I went from having a CRT to a flat screen. I kept the CRT. I'd have it sat down and I'd do my gaming on that, and I had the other TV there. My room got cramped. I didn't have a big room, so my room was cramped with tech, like VHS players and all kinds of stuff. I just used to mess around with stuff, take things apart, figure out how they all worked. Anyway, different story. I would keep the old screen, I'd play against one, and I'd have something like Gold or Dave on the other. And it would just, at the time, like Dave in particular, would just repeat old stuff. A lot of Top Gear, I think, it's quite a comedy thing that Dave would always do, is like the Top Gear channel. But have a lot of stuff. And my dad would watch a lot of things, like he'd occasionally, I'm trying to think what he would watch, like some like Young Ones he might have had on every now and again, or a lot of the older kind of, he got like Morecambe and Wise, those kind of older shows with the 2 hosts who did comedy sketches and then had guests in and stuff. I'd see a lot of that on. But I think he also had Sky, so he'd have random stuff on. Got fun stories about German channels we used to watch when we first got Sky. Oh, we've got German channels. Oh, why is everybody having a talk show and it's like a competition and everyone's got no clothes on? And it's, we don't understand anything, but they're naked. That's not British comedy. Anyway, I'm just going to list some. I'm trying to think, if these were on telly, I wouldn't flick over. That's what I'm going with this. Would I flick these over? Loved the IT Crowd. Fast Show. I absolutely adored the Fast Show. Bottom. Young Ones. Shooting Stars. And I don't know if this is the kind of show that TJ wanted me to say, but yeah, Shooting Stars. Oh my God. Vic Rees and Bob Mortimer are like my comedy idols. They are hilarious chaps. And Shooting Stars, I would cry watching Shooting Stars. League of Gentlemen, what I like about League of Gentlemen is that it's not so much that it's laugh out loud funny. It's fucked up. And I really like dark, fucked up thing, especially if they are comedy as well, or they're a bit silly or funny or whatever. And that's what that is. I'm trying to remember the film. I don't remember whether I particularly liked the film very much, but certainly the series I did. Oh, another great one. Even my mum liked this, Outnumbered. And she's not somebody that I'd ever say like sitting there watching comedy shows, but we kind of like two things we've connected on over our lives is Outnumbered and Meatloaf. She's like, I've got her Meatloaf CD. I never gave her back. But there are two things that my mum and I have bonded over, Outnumbered and Meatloaf. People Just Do Nothing. Oh, that's so funny. People just, a bit more of a more recent one. A bunch of chavs doing a pirate garage radio station. Simon, you should watch this. It is amazing. I've heard that they were making a film. I don't know if I've seen it or even if they did or not. But I mean, this thing was winning BAFTAs all over the place. These guys are hilarious. And I think the guy who wrote it did do pirate radio or does do garage DJing anyway, which is why it was all kind of like, which is why it feels so realistic and feels so much what it was like when I was a young teenager listening to garage music and going off through my friends. Then we'd hang out in Potter's Bar, nice and far away from home, and just be a bit naughty. Not too naughty, but naughty. What else is on here? I did write a list. Oh yeah, Murder and Successful. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show before. This is brilliant. I think it's on Netflix. So they have a cast of characters, and then you get a guest. And the bit is, it's a detective show, and you've got the main dude's a detective, and so it becomes a buddy cop drama. But the buddy cop is a guest, and they do not know anything that's happening. They are completely blind to the entire script, whereas the other guys are ad-lib. They've got plot, but they ad-lib it. So then the other guy is just like, or girl, is just there. And one of the best ones, I don't know what his name is, he's a blonde guy. He was on something like The Only Way is Essex or one of those shows. He now does like podcasts and stuff. It's not anything I would normally watch, his things, but he is brilliant. One of, if not the funniest one. But yeah, Murder Successful. I think there's like 2 or 3 seasons of it. Yeah, and everyone buddy cop drama, and oh god, it's so funny because when they break character, they leave it all in. So like when you see the main guy who's trying to do this like deadpan, a bit slightly eccentric kind of cop, and he starts laughing because the situation is just completely nuts. They're the good ones. White Gold. Again, I think it's on Netflix. It's got 2 of the lads from In-Betweeners. Again, In-Betweeners is on my list. And it follows this guy who is a window salesman. That's the show. And he is a fucking arsehole. He is up his own arse. He's a womanizer. He's a terrible, terrible person. He's so narcissistic. And it just follows him and his downfall and his rise and his downfall of being a window salesman, like a door-to-door window salesman. And if you like In-Betweeners, you'll like White Gold. It's like In-Betweeners turn up to 11. So good. Friday Night Dinner. It's a shame they obviously won't be doing any more of those because one of the guys sadly passed away. But that's got a guy from it's got Suitcase Wanker from the In-Betweeners is in this. Follows a Jewish family that every Friday they have their dinner. And I think they're Jewish. I think that makes a point of them being Jewish. Maybe I'm making that up. I don't know. I'm not anti-Semitic. I don't know. Anyway, they do... they come around for dinner every Friday, and it's just following the fucking mayhem. And they've got a mental next door neighbour. The dad's mental, he's with his shirt off. Yeah, just funny. Really funny. Again, you love it. Another one I really like is Derry Girls, set in Northern Ireland in a town called Derry. And it's just these young girls at secondary school just living their life in Derry. And it's that, again, that's just funny. And the things they say about like English people and stuff, it's really funny. It's really funny. Anyway, That's number 3. I'm going to sneeze. Hold on a minute.
Question 4. The most embarrassing thing to happen when at work. I'll let Rob go first, but I've already had a little bit of a in on this one, that he doesn't really have an embarrassing work story. So I think we're about to hear about his cock again.
Don't know if anything really embarrassing has happened to me at work. Shit tons of embarrassing things have happened to me. Absolutely embarrassing things have happened to me. I've said them on the show. I could go through it again. The most embarrassing thing that I can think of was, I'm going to say it. When I had surgery, I had I can't remember its exact name. I had one of my kidneys. The tube that goes out of the kidney was blocked. Caused me a lot of pain. Couldn't pinpoint what it was. The doctor was like, "Oh, you drink too much alcohol." At the time, I did drink a lot of alcohol, but it was like, "You're drinking too much alcohol. It's hurting you." Blah 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 blah. It's like, this pain has got nothing to do with when I drink alcohol. Sometimes it is there. Sometimes it's not. It can just do it. I could just wake up with it, and I wouldn't have been drinking for like a few days. And eventually, they started doing tests on me. And they put this dye in me and stuff. And it comes up on the screen. It's all really clever, and you can see your kidneys appear. And then one of mine wouldn't go away. And like, there we go. So I had to go under the knife. Anyway, a lot of things about it they didn't tell me. One of which being I would wake up in the hospital with a fucking catheter. If anybody's had one of those, they're odd. And it got to the point, it'd been a couple of days in the hospital, and they'd been saying to me, there was a lot of, it was a private hospital, it was like a booper, because at the time I was on my parents' private healthcare thing. So I was very lucky in the fact that I didn't have to wait for NHS staff, and even though I was actually in NHS hospital for most of it, the actual surgery happened in a private one. Anyway, again, I'm making myself sound posh. I use Lurpak. They had a lot of student nurses and doctors, and they always asked me, and I was like, look, you can always use the student nurses and doctors. They've got to learn somewhere. I'm not bothered. So they in particular had this one student nurse who was there all the time. Reasonably attractive, what you would expect a student nurse to be were you going to write female novels for the ladies to enjoy. And it got to the point where I had to have the catheter out. So every time a student doctor or nurse or whoever had to do anything on you, the actual nurse or doctor had to be there with them, and they weren't allowed to do anything without supervision. Fine. Well, the way that a catheter sits inside you, at least it was in me, it's like a balloon they inflate with air and that holds it in. And they had to get it out. So the way they do that is they put like a needle into this tube, and then they start sucking the air out through this needle. Could have offered me another way of doing it, but they used a needle. And started to flame the back. Anyway, they get to the point where the student nurse has deflated the bag. She's got my cock in one hand, kind of holding my cock as much as she could with her tweezers, and the other hand is kind of holding the tube and trying to take the air out of this catheter. And alarms start going fucking mental, and it's because some poor bastard on the other side of the corridor, something's gone wrong. I don't know, maybe they pulled their things out of them, so the heart monitor started going for it. Maybe they were in a problem. Everything went nuts. The nurse was like, "Do not move," to the student nurse. She ran out. I hear lots of people running into the other room. Things happen. About it felt like an hour. It was probably 2 or 3 minutes. Felt like an hour. And I had to just sit there with this student nurse just holding my cock. It was one of the most demasculating, embarrassing, awkward moments of my entire life. I couldn't even look at the poor girl. I can't imagine how embarrassed she was either. I was not at my finest. It's not like I was ready to go on the night at the town. I'd been lying in this bed for 2 days, just had pretty major surgery, and I wasn't showing my size to its best. Anyway, grower, not a shower.
Now, I chose these questions, and I genuinely question myself why I do this to myself. I can tell you the most embarrassing thing to happen to me, and it's when I was working for the ambulance company. Now, I used to do a lot for that ambulance company. I did actual work on the road, so going out and dealing with patients at events or hospitals, whatever we'd been booked into. I helped manage the staff, I helped manage the vehicles, and part of my job was also doing training. So I'd often go out to dental practices or businesses that needed their first aid at work or their basic life support or their emergency medications training. And I'd go out to places and I'd teach them, or defib training, for example. I'd go out and I'd do a good job, I'd like to think. I had a lot of people that would ask for me year in, year out, and that used to make me feel pretty good about myself. But there was one particular job that came up, and granted, when you train, you are meant to have a background knowledge in what you are training. And obviously, first aid, medical, I did. The one that obviously I'd had training in but had never taught before was fire marshal, what to do in a fire. So I had a quick rundown of the training material, and that all seemed fine. My boss ordered a load of fire extinguishers for us to use in the car park at the place I was going to, so we could do a demonstration. The problem is, we didn't have actual equipment to demonstrate fires. So if you look at a company that provides fire marshal training, what they normally have is they'll have a gas canister of some variety, and they'll normally have a tripod with what looks like a big metal pot on it. And I think they fill it with water, and the gas bubbles through, they throw a match onto it, and then you've got this lovely big gas flame that you can then demonstrate using the appropriate CO2 or maybe foam or water, obviously CO2 for that fire, for putting it out. Now, that would be the appropriate kit to use. We didn't have that. No, we had a metal bowl that we'd put some stuff in, set it on fire, and let people put it out. Not great. And what happened, dare I say, is not particularly good, and it still makes me shiver to this day. I went in and I did all the fire marshal training I was meant to. I took them through what you do in an emergency. I did what the legal minimum requirements were, what each fire extinguisher did, where it should be used, why there should be fire drills, what happens when there's not appropriate fire things in place. And I'm not going to tell you, it's easy to find on YouTube, but there was a club in America that had pyrotechnics on stage, and it set fire to the curtains and it set the whole place up. And a lot of people died because there was only one exit out. People were getting jammed in there and crushed as people were climbing over them. They found a lot of people, unfortunately, passed away in the toilets because they'd run there thinking there might be a fire exit there, and then they got pinned in. Absolutely harrowing. And I always used to have to give a warning because that video really does upset people, because it is, someone is filming it on a home camcorder and they just happened to be caught in the middle of it, so they kept filming. And it's tragic, and it often makes people feel very poorly, very sick, very scared. And we used to show that as a proof of, this is why you need to make sure you know where your fire exits are, that they're always clear, that you have a fire plan in place. We used to do all of that, and that was the genuine learning, and that did a good job. And then it came to the outdoor bit, and the first 3 or 4 went absolutely fine. And then we came to the 5th one, and the bowl got knocked over, which meant there were some embers got blown away by the CO2 extinguisher. And where do you suppose those embers ended up? They ended up in their cardboard pile, which was a very, very large cardboard pile. And it was summer, and that cardboard pile started to smoulder. And no matter what I did, I kept pulling out. When I say it was a big cardboard pile, think of the biggest cardboard boxes that you can get for packaging and double the size of them. They were all flattened. It was all corrugated card, so obviously the fire builds up inside the corrugated card. So I was pulling these giant sheets out, which weighed a ton as it is, and I went through about 8 or 9 of their extinguishers to try and put this bloody thing out. And even then, it just sparked straight back up again. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what have I done? And then the fire brigade turn up and they put it out really quick with a hose. And they said, so what were you doing here? And I had to turn to them and say, well, I'm here doing their fire marshal training. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to ever top that embarrassing moment. And the final question. Favourite thing we've done on the podcast to date? That's going to be a hard one because we have done a lot. I'm answering this without knowing what Rob has chosen. Makes it a little bit difficult, but at least even if we did end up choosing the same thing, at least you know that we've kind of on the same wavelength, which is one of the reasons I think our podcast works and why we work so well together in just in friendship, but within a creative role together, because we always bounce off each other so well. Going back over our history of 86 plus episodes, because that doesn't include all the bonus episodes, that doesn't include all of the Christmas Advent episodes, there were 4 or 5 I could have chosen from. I think the whole East 17 Christmas fiasco was very funny. I think that was 2 or 3 years ago. Go and listen to that Advent to find out. And the whole Biff Pilchard and, oh my God, we can't let Cliff win, or whatever it was going to be. Or was it E7? I genuinely can't remember. But those have always been a huge amount of fun. The many quizzes. I think the recent walk around where I asked Rob to find out which of the 5 murders was real was amazing. And I think that is one of my favourite things to date that we've done, especially with the video. Obviously, in my head, there's things that I could have done better and I would have done better. And I've learned, and we're going to take that forward and we're going to do even more. Not quite podcast, but we did Seed, the video about prison pigeon and birds being addicted to birdseed. Kind of with the podcast. We did Crumb, Good Things Come to Those Who Wait, which was another prison pigeon video, and obviously quite grotesque, and that was over for Cheap Show, as we did it under the podcast name. They're all available on Tom and Rob in the Studio on YouTube, by the way, so feel free to go over there and watch those. Obviously, Crumb, big warning, you will feel ill by the end of it. Again, great fun doing that. I think, though, the thing that will always come back to me, will always make me laugh, was us looking at Ironic by Alanis Morissette and the irony spider and all of the bits that kind of exploded from that. And that episode, looking at that entire Ironic song and then coming up with the alternate lyrics, just even to this day makes me... I've gone back and listened to it recently, and as much as I cringe a little bit at the early recordings we did, I still laugh at the fact that we redid those lyrics, or I redid those lyrics, and just how much they set them off. Again, the whole spider fly thing, and just Rob absolutely losing it. I think I actually cut that episode up because it just went on for so long, him not being able to talk because he was laughing. So I had to stitch it together. But that, I think, was our funniest moment in some ways. I'm not going to put a clip of it here. Again, check the description if I find the episode number. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't Ironic, I think is the episode name. And it's quite early on in the podcast's life. In fact, we may have even been the Channel 84 variety show at that point. That is definitely my favourite point. There have been a load more, though. Really, there have. As much as the Hot Chilies, I hated what they did to me, I kind of look back at that and still chuckle about that. Rob doing my birthday quiz with a pigeon covered in kind of Velcro questions. And that was when we used to do every other week was Star Trek in the variety show. So it just shows how much we've changed. Overall, I just love what we do. And I'm hoping Rob's saying something as nice as I am. But I love what we do, and I love the show that we've got. And yeah, I'll go with Irony Spider. It wasn't Ironic, whatever we called it in the end. But that was kind of the top spot for me still at this point. I'm sure there'll be more to come, but watch this space.
I've enjoyed a lot. I really enjoy everything that TJ comes up with. I like all the games, like the recent one we did with the pop things, melody pop. So that was very funny. But my favourite, I don't think it's like our most listened to, but I certainly bring it up. I know TJ likes it. Is the Irony Spider one, and that came up. I don't know what the Irony Spider specifically came. I think it's just because I just decided to make a character like I did with Prison Pigeon. But it's from, he took Ironic by Alanis Morissette, and knowing that absolutely everything she says in their technically dictionary definition isn't ironic, he made it ironic, which completely changed everything and made it so funny. And then he then just started saying phrases, I think, I'm trying to remember it now, phrases that were actually, if you say something right, but made it so it was saying it like it was ironic. Like the fly, I think we got the Irony Spider one because it was, he'd made something about, one of the lines, something about fly in the soup or something, or something about soup, and he was going, oh, blah, blah, blah. But you can, I kind of remember now, but I remember dying, absolutely dying with laughter with his fucking stupid things. I've said it loads of times before. He is so, TJ is one of, if not the funniest person I know, and it catches me off guard every single time, because when you know him in person, big him up now, go glaze him big time. He is so kind, he's so generous, he's one of those friends who's always kind of there for you. And there was a long period of time where we didn't speak, and for quite a few years we didn't speak. We worked together at the pub, and then just things happened and we moved apart. We never fell out, nothing, just moved apart. And then he brought us back together again by coming up with the podcast idea. We were kind of in touch, but not, speaking every day. We were kind of in touch a bit, but there was a long period of time where we didn't speak. Anyway, but he's always kind of, when you're kind of in that, sphere or the kind of friend circle, he looks after you. He's very good like that. But he can also be, on occasion, he can be quiet and kind of reserved and dad. If you know what dads are like, TJ's a dad. If you see him in dad's scenario, he's dad. And we do these things where we go with the boys and we'll go to like garden centres. We love garden centres. TJ and I love a garden centre. And he can be in dad mode, complete dad mode. And just a glint in his eye or something will happen that we'll both notice, and he'll come out with something completely fucking outrageous. And I'm not going to tell you the kind of things to say, because we try our best on the variety show to be PC. If this is going on the variety show, I won't say. When the 5 questions come out on the Untitled Sci-Fi show, I won't hide stuff. But yeah, he'll say something completely outrageous, and I will just die with laughter. That's what TJ's like. Very, really does, to me anyway, completely takes me by surprise with how funny he can be, even though I know he's hilarious. So actually, I'm going to say my favourite thing that I've ever done on the podcast is say yes to Tom when he asked me to do it. When he asked Dan and I to join him for the 3 Dads 1 Pod, which we only end up doing like 6 episodes for, because 3 people on a show is very difficult to wrangle. And it was a difficult time certainly for Tom and I, whilst we were slightly better than Dan was, bless him, at organising time. TJ organised it just before his boy was born, or right when I think it was just before. And my boy was only like 1, so that's a difficult time. People who have kids, that's a difficult time when they're at that age. You don't get much sleep, so it became very difficult to organise it. And then we had a little break, but Tom and I were still messaging. We're like, no, come on, we've got ideas here, and we kind of let it dangle for a bit. And then I remember messaging him going, no, we've got to start this up. I've got things in my head. I've got to get them out of my head. Like, I need to be creative in some way. And he was like, I've been thinking the same thing. And that's how we started it. So that's it. I think my favourite thing was saying yes to my friend Tom. And that's it. He said 5 minutes per question. I've managed to go 25 minutes. And I didn't say anything terrible, did I? I wasn't homophobic. I was almost anti-Semitic by saying a bit about Jewish people in Friday Night Dinner. What else? Was I racist? No. I've not done that much swearing. I have maybe said fuck, shit, bugger. I didn't say cunt, I don't think. Didn't say cunt. So we can be happy with that. Love you.
Right, that's your lot. We'll be back to a normal episode next week where I won't fuck about with microphones. I'll actually be with Rob for the next episode, and we'll get back to normal things like Snack Sack, Was It Best Left in the 90s, and all of those things. Thank you very much for listening. You can find out more about The Variety Show by going to thevarietyshow.co.uk, where you can find all our contact details, all our social media, all our YouTube stuff. It's over there. When you go over to that site, you'll also see... I'm currently updating it, obviously, whenever I can and putting new episodes on there. But you'll see a library of the songs we've kept and the songs we haven't, snacks that we've tasted and their scores, and also the Do You Remembers, which that's slowly building up as well. If you'd like to find out more about Channel 84, our podcast network for indie podcasters, go to channel84.co.uk. You'll find out more about Karen and Adam at Lightly Used, Simon and Ross at Who Takes the Socks Off, John and Mike at... Pocket Knockers, and also Leighton J. Head over to channel84.co.uk, you'll find social media posts there, you'll find blog posts there, and you'll find out more about the studio. Otherwise, thank you very much for listening, and I'm going to go and finish off my holiday. Take care, and I'll see you all soon. Goodbye.
This was a Studio Channel 84 network show. To find more, head over to channel84.co.uk now.